If you haven't already done so, I strongly suggest you watch Apple's WWDC 2014 keynote before watching this video. This video will be referring to said keynote and will be sort of a complaint or review of said keynote. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching.
I think a developer would look like a geek, nerdy, clad.
Unshaven, glasses,
spiky hair, beard.
There's a guy behind a door that's got enough of a crack they can slide a pizza underneath.
So you're starting off the developer conference by listing nerd stereotypes? This'll be interesting. So starting out with OS X Yosemite, I don't actually have that many problems with it. However, the new design is a bit of a bummer to me. I mean, yeah, it's nice that they're willing to take such a bold step, and I mean, I did grow kind of fond of iOS 7, but I'm really worried about compatibility with apps that aren't going to be updated for OS X Yosemite's design. How we're going to see compatibility with Steam and games. And, you know, games that, or applications that aren't using the full screen APIs as the maximize button in the top left corner next to minimize and close window. Will take the app full screen. Like, what happens if the application doesn't do that? What about dashboard? I'm actually really fucking worried that dashboard might die with the integration of widgets into Notification Center. So that's really worrying about OS X. But I'll give that the benefit of the doubt, because maybe it'll all turn out great and we'll have no compatibility issues and all that will be great. But another thing that's really bugging me about the design of OS X is all the translucency. I mean, they did say at the conference that professionals and people who are doing serious work often wants to focus and can't be bothered with all the translucency and what might be going on, and that they've included a dark mode for that. But I'm not sure that the dark mode is enough for that. I mean, I love OS X the way it is already, and it's really allowing me to focus, right? And that's one of the greatest things about OS X, is that you take an application full screen, you're just not bothered by all that stuff, and even if it's not full screen, you can really focus, right? And I'm really worried that'll lose. But in general, I actually think OS X Yosemite will be a really awesome release. I don't really have that many problems with that. My main issue is with iOS. Alright, so you might ask me what my problem is with iOS 8, and well, it's actually rather simple. They're giving way too much power to the developers, and I know that some of you out there thinks that that's a good thing, but let me tell you why it's not. Alright, so starting with how they're allowing developers to write keyboards for the entire operating system and extensions for applications, and, you know, allowing applications to communicate more with each other. Well, I have a few problems with this. First of all, there's the risk of developers writing a keyboard or an extension that crashes, right? You know, if you write something that interacts with Safari that then crashes, well, will it crash Safari? It probably will, right? And if you write a keyboard, well, there's an even bigger downside to that, in that if your keyboard crashes, you know, you will crash every single application that uses the keyboard, and you know, that's quite a lot of applications. You'll basically look at a phone that crashes in every single application there is, pretty much, right? You don't really have that problem with the Apple keyboard, and you know that the Apple keyboard is safe and everything. And you might say that that's a user risk that the users choose whether they take or not, but there are a lot of people out there who are not tech savvy enough to know that it's the keyboard that might be causing them these problems. So that's a real issue. And you know, same with the application extensions, that applications can talk to each other. And what about malware, right? You know, Apple has a tight security net. If you want to get on the App Store, you know, you're going to have to be secure, and you can't really make malware come to the App Store. But we have seen that happen in the past. I mean, it's rare that it happens, and it often gets taken down quite quickly, but we have seen instances of malware coming to the App Store. And if malware gets to talk to other applications, and if malware gets to like become a keyboard, then it could be a key logger and all of your passwords could be at risk. And Apple does say that the keyboards are running in a very restricted sandbox, but there is still a risk here. And they even touched on the fragmentation of Android themselves, and if they're allowing keyboards to change, well, they're basically fragmenting themselves a little bit. You know, we used to be able to make applications that were very specific for Apple because, like, we knew the environment they'd be put in. But if the keyboard's allowed to be different, well, you know, we're going to have to consider that in making our applications, and we might see schizophrenic designs and applications that aren't going to look as nice and even function as well with other keyboards because they're made for the Apple keyboard. Another problem we're looking at is with the notification center widgets. Now, all of the issues that I talked about earlier with keyboards and extensions for existing applications still apply, but there is more to this. Now, even though these notification center widgets are just going to be like small applets that won't consume much power from the CPU or much RAM, they will still be running, and while they might only run when you actually open the notification center, that will create a longer loading time for the notification center. And if you're running an intensive application behind the notification center, you could experience slowdowns when pulling down a notification center and pushing it away again. And it might even be a while before the slowdown will stop as the memory takes some time to purge, right? So that can be a potential issue that could be quite severe. Now, I don't know if Apple has some brilliant way of handling this that I just can't think of, but it seems like a really risky thing to do. And again, you could say that it's up to the users if they're installing these notifications. But as I said, there are a lot of people out there who might not be that tech savvy and won't know that the notification center widgets are what's slowing down their experience. Again, it's not about what the users want, it's about what they should want. We haven't even touched on the worst thing yet, though. The worst thing is this.
I talk to people like him all the time, of course. This is all very normal for me.
Hello.
Wow. Hey, it's Craig Federighi here.
Hey, how you doing? This is Dre.
Hey, doctor, you're on speakerphone via my Mac with over 6,000 amazing developers here at WWDC. We all want to welcome you to Apple.
Thanks, Craig. I love a big audience. I want to thank everybody here for creating such amazing apps.
Yeah, they have created some amazing apps.
By the way, I'm glad you called. I hear Tim gets in pretty early. What time should I show up for work?
If you want to beat Tim into the office, it'd be about 4:30. But I think, orientation, new employee orientation starts at 9. So, and you don't want to miss the free T-shirt. So I'd shoot for 9.
Sounds good. I can't wait to get to work with the team at Apple.
Well, Dre, it's been great chatting with you. I'll see you around campus.
Thanks, Craig. Talk soon.
All right, bye.
What the fuck, Craig? Did you just get starstruck talking to Dr. Dre on stage? Someone who's been doing presentations as long as you have should not be this nervous and this awkward talking to Dr. Dre on stage. I mean, I like your stupid jokes, but this? No. Seriously. No. No. Alright, so despite all the stuff I just touched upon, the presentation wasn't all bad. There were some really exciting things in there, such as a new programming language called Swift, that seemed to allow for really high-level programming. It seems like it could allow for complicated applications to be written with a lot less code than is currently required. So that's really interesting. Apple also announced a new set of APIs called Metal, similar to AMD's Mantle. That's why I almost said Mantle. Allowing for very bare to the metal, you know, low overhead programming of graphics. Apple claims that it can allow for up to 10x performance in graphical programs, so that's extremely exciting, and a lot of people are talking about the advantages of eliminating overhead. NVIDIA had a presentation at GDC talking about how to eliminate driver overhead with OpenGL, allowing for 15x performance, which was very interesting, and sort of the same ideas we're seeing with Apple's Metal. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. Also, and a more consumer-oriented thing that I found really interesting was Handoff. That allows users to quickly continue working, doing what they're doing on one device on another device. So if I'm writing an email on my Mac, right, and my iPad's on a lock screen, I can just swipe down from the button, sort of like how you get to camera, quickly going to the mail application into compose email, continuing with the same email I was writing on my Mac. Really interesting idea, and it also works in the other direction. And it could potentially be something really awesome that we all use every day. And I'm assuming it will be, actually, and it looks really awesome. So the presentation wasn't all bad. There was some really interesting things in there. I was just really pissed about the things that were wrong. They really frustrated me. And it just seemed very rushed. Yeah, it seemed very rushed. But there were some cool things in there, and it did really sadden me, though, that we did not see Phil Schiller announce new Mac Mini or new iMacs or anything like that. That would have been awesome as well. Oh, and one more thing. It seems as if they're going to eliminate iPhoto on the Mac. Now this is driving me absolutely crazy. I love iPhoto, and for the longest time I didn't actually use iPhoto, but once I sat down and started organizing my photos, it didn't actually take that long, even though I had a lot of photos, and it's just so clean. Like, I can easily find the photos I need, and I just browse through millions of photos in an instant. iPhoto is amazing, but it seems as if there might be removing iPhoto, and they've at least announced that they're making a new Photos application for OS X, similar to the Photos app on iOS. Whether it will completely replace iPhoto or not, I'm not really sure of. I think it will, but iPhoto does exist on OS X next to the Photos app, so we might see something similar to that, with iPhoto getting a renewed focus on photo editing, and the Photos application being where you store your photos. But I love iPhoto, so it's really saddening to see it being replaced or whatever. I wish they would just add more functionality to iPhoto and keep the other Photos application non-existent. But maybe that's just me. Maybe it's a good move, because to begin with, I was a bit, scared of going into iPhoto myself. Primarily because I had a lot of photos, and I figured it might take a long time to sort them all, but it didn't really, so I love iPhoto. Overall, I'd say it's probably one of the most disappointing keynotes for a very long time. As I said, it wasn't all bad, and there were some really interesting things in there, but the presentation itself wasn't very good in my opinion. The products look very interesting, and I'm very excited to try some of them out. Of course, they only showed software, but I'm very excited to try out their software. But there are a lot of things that worry me. I've signed up for the OS X Yosemite beta, the Appleseed beta. I not really want to pay for the developer program, as I don't have anything I'm feeling good about posting to the App Store or anything like that. But if I do get into the developer program, it's only the first 1 million registered people who, get accepted into the developer program, or rather the beta program. But if I do get accepted, I will probably make a bunch of videos showing off OS X Yosemite and you know, different features and hidden gems that people, you know, that weren't showed off in the keynote. So yeah, tune in for that if that happens, and I hope you enjoyed the video.